Now, the aid is flowing in, as you just saw, but the security situation here is also extremely fluid and something that the international community is watching very closely indeed. Now, as you remember, at the weekend, Hillary Clinton was here. Today, her husband, Bill Clinton, the former president, turned up. He's, of course, the UN Special Envoy for Haiti. He has a particular affection for this island. When he was president in the 90s, he sent troops to Haiti to usher in democracy. So I started by asking him today at the airport in the city of Port-au-Prince what his impressions were when he toured the city today.
Well, it is physically devastated, economically devastated. There are a lot of people severely injured and they need the health care. Today, this supply base I brought down today was largely designed to fill the gaps in the surgical capacity of the biggest hospital in the country. But it is spiritually not devastated yet. There are astonishing people, how they can be so calm in the face of such enormous loss of life and loved ones and all the physical damage. I hope that if we do this right, Haiti and her partners and the United States, the United Nations, the non-governmental groups, I hope if we do it right, we can quickly resume rebuilding the country and go back to what I was doing before the earthquake.
There are a lot of people that you speak to downtown who can see all the aid planes landing at the airport, but have not received any help yet. Yeah, their patience is running out.
Well, their patience should run out. Look, it's better today than it was yesterday. It'll be better tomorrow. But here's the fundamental problem. Number one, the devastation was so complete that the sheer numbers were great. For example, I was told right after the earthquake, and I was called checking on all this, they said, well, the World Food Program has 86 metric tons of food pre-positioned in El Salvador. It sounds like a lot. How much is that? That'll feed 30,000 people for a week. We need to be feeding probably 300,000 people, if not more. If not more. So there's never been anything like this in our neighborhood on this scale. Secondly, here we were landing 3 planes a day before the earthquake. Yesterday they landed 67 planes. They're going to go to 100. That sounds great, but we need more. And then there's the bottleneck, the fact that there's no distribution system. I'm most encouraged by the agreement that Secretary of State Clinton and President Preval signed and the memo of understanding between the UN troops and the American troops to have the UN provide the security and the Americans provide logistics and distribution. They know how to do that. So we're getting there.
But if you don't see troops on the ground soon, UN or US, the anarchy that's already broken out in town, and I've seen scenes of it myself, many scenes, it's just going to get worse, isn't it?
Yes, but actually, when you think about people who lost everything except what they're carrying on their backs, who haven't not only eaten, probably hadn't slept in 4 days, and when the sun goes down, it's totally dark, and they spend all night long wandering around, tripping over bodies, living and dead, I think they've behaved quite well. And I think their spirits are good. So we need to do better, but our military guys here have done a great job organizing this airport now, and the distribution system's getting better. There's no question that it's not enough, not quick enough. That's why I say to all people, send us money, send money, because we can turn it into where it's needed and distribute it. Otherwise, if you just send goods, it's just going to be clogged up, clogged up, clogged up.
They're going to have to rebuild this whole capital city, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going to have to reinvent Haiti from scratch, more or less.
Yes, and I think my job is to make it exciting instead of heartbreaking, to make it and to make it possible instead of a dream.
Bill Clinton, the eternal optimist there, and we'll see in the coming weeks and months and possibly even years whether he's right about the rebuilding of Haiti. And by the way, Cathy, he has told me that he will intend to come back over and over again in the coming months. I'm sure he will.
Matt, we heard there in your interview with Bill Clinton, the president making a direct appeal for people to send more money. But actually, there's been an incredible outpouring of generosity, both from governments and from individuals. $200 million has been pledged to US aid agencies by private donations. It doesn't seem, at least in the immediate term, that lack of money is the problem.
No, I don't think it is. Perhaps he was thinking in the long term. What happens in about a year's time or 2 years' time? Can you actually rebuild this capital and this nation from scratch, as you have to do, because all the big government buildings in town are flattened. The institutions of state have collapsed, and it'll take more than just the initial relief to feed people and to treat them medically to get this place up and running again. So perhaps he's thinking in terms of the future. But you're absolutely right, Cathy. I mean, the outpouring of generosity, of personal and government contributions for this particular crisis has been enormous. I mean, rivaled only by the tsunami, I think. And perhaps it's because we haven't had a big crisis like this for quite some time. The last one, I gather, was China, of course, a year ago. But then, of course, the Chinese government was very much in control there. And they managed to get the situation sorted out pretty swiftly. But Haiti is so helpless, it is so on its own, that it cannot survive without the lifeline of international aid. And that is exactly what is finally trickling through here from the airport.
And Matt, do you agree with Clinton that given the country's past, in a way, it's remarkable how peaceful the last week has been, not how violent it's been?
You know, that is a really good point. I mean, we've been, around these encampments that you see all over the city during the day and at night, and with one exception, which is the notorious slum of Cité Soleil, perhaps the most notorious slum in all of Latin America. People have been incredibly civil towards each other and towards us. I mean, virtually everywhere you go, including this live position, by the way, there's a whole group of people watching us, and before I came on, they all tried to tell me their story. What happened to their homes? What happened to their jobs, if they had any at all? What happened to their families? And so there is a civility here. You see in the neighborhoods, as you drive around town, little roadblocks, but not aggressive ones, just sort of people mapping out their turf. I saw a woman today sweeping the street, which has become her living room. But here's the point, Cathy. This place can flip on a dime. There are so many guns here. There is so much underlying violence. There's such a history of unrest that this could turn nasty very quickly indeed if the patience runs out. Welcome back to the special edition of BBC World News America from Port-au-Prince in Haiti. I'm Matt Frei. During this crisis, we have talked an awful lot about aid, inevitably. And some news just in. The United States has announced that it will temporarily allow all orphaned Haitian children entry into America. When they leave, they will depart from the airport about a mile from here. That has been the hub, the nerve center of this massive international aid operation. My colleague David Loyne reports.
Anger, fueled by hunger, is reaching boiling point in Port-au-Prince. UN police alongside US soldiers fired baton rounds to push a crowd back from the gates of the airport. The police face people who know that on the other side of the fence there is food and water piled high. Round the clock, planes are bringing in aid, but far too little of it is leaving the airport. US Navy helicopters are dropping packages of ready meals and water from the air, but this can reach only a few people at a time.
We understand that there's frustration out there. We got to keep in mind that this disaster only happened a few days ago. It's going to take some time to get these people together.
Within hours of the earthquake, the US military had secured this airport. Thousands more Marines are being made ready to come ashore.
The sheer scale of the US effort here has led to some disquiet among aid workers who see humanitarian relief as a purely civilian affair. The US military say somebody had to do it.
The civilian aid effort is at last gearing up, with daily meetings to try to coordinate the international response. There are not enough trucks or fuel, although there do seem to be plenty of vehicles available behind the UN fence. The failure to respond more quickly is making it harder to deliver aid securely outside now.
If you go with a truck somewhere, the truck is just attacked, then you need the military escort, you need the protection, you need to speak with the community before, then they need to organize themselves and be quiet to allow us to distribute the food.
The rescuers who came in to dig people out of the rubble are on their way home. But millions of survivors are still waiting for help that the world has sent to reach them. David Loyne, BBC News, Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Well, let's talk to someone who knows a lot about aid. My former colleague and now spokeswoman for Oxfam, the international aid organization here in Port-au-Prince, Caroline Gluck. Now, we've talked a lot, Caroline, about how tough the situation is out there because the roads are down, the port is down, the airport only got up and running at the weekend. Tell me, is that really fair?
It's been devastating. My colleagues are saying this is one of the most challenging environments in terms of dealing with an emergency and mounting an emergency response that Oxfam and our staff have ever faced. As you said, not only has the infrastructure collapsed, key thing is communications. People can't telephone each other. It took us almost over a day to contact our staff here in Haiti. We got one text message to say everybody was safe. In fact, 2 of our staff were actually killed in the quake, unfortunately. But that has been one of the major challenges in trying to get aid. If you can't talk to people, if you can't speak to people to find out what is the problem, where is the aid needed, how can you get the aid to where it's required? So it has been a major challenge, not just for Oxfam, but for everybody working here.
Amazingly enough, Caroline, my emails actually started working long before the phones ever worked. But there's been quite a lot of criticism as well about this massive and complex international aid effort as just being too disorganized. Is that fair?
You're talking about one of the poorest countries in the world, in the Western Hemisphere. You're talking about a government that has collapsed, that is barely functioning. The UN mission was hit, the head of mission was killed.
Do you think that had an impact?
I think it's had an enormous impact. And, you know, this country doesn't have the resources to help itself. Aid was difficult to arrive. People couldn't communicate with each other. Aid is now getting in. You can hear all the trucks and the planes going over. The problem is still getting it to where it needs to be delivered. We had some problems in the last day and a half because there are fuel shortages. We were doing water distribution. We've installed these plastic water bladders that can give safe, clean water to populations camping out in these open areas. And then the water trucks couldn't arrive because they couldn't resource fuel. That was a day and a half. We couldn't do anything. Now we've got emergency fuel.
And just in one line, how long do you think you'll be here?
Optimists say it will take at least 5 years to rebuild this country. I will probably be here for several weeks.
Caroline Glack, spokeswoman for Oxfam, thank you very much. Well, there you have it. It is a pretty complex and a pretty grim picture, but things are changing on the ground all the time. And certainly what we saw today was that, yes, some of the aid is getting through to some of the people who need it, but by no means all. And just one more note, by the way, the UN this morning apparently said that they have now got confirmation of 80,000 retrieved bodies. Now that gives you some idea of the death toll, but the final death toll, that will take a long time. Back to you, Cathy. My colleague Matthew Price was here very soon after the earthquake struck, and he's taking a look back at the week, and one place in particular.
Haiti's agony is clear to see. But some help has arrived at the hospitals.
Don't really have much drugs that I can give them. For pain, I'm just doing the best that I can. We have piles of people outside who require to get in here still. So we're trying to get people out the door as quickly as possible.
Still, it is a world away from the desperate scenes we saw here a day after the earthquake. When there were no doctors, no medicine, just the dying and the dead. Today, at least, there is hope. But not for everyone. Not for 9-year-old Stephanie. Her father Carlos tells me she will die, that the hospital doesn't have the right equipment to carry out an operation to save her life. So they wait as she slowly slips away from them.
The tragic story of Stephanie. Now, of course, we talk about aftershocks when one of these seismic events has happened, and we felt a few while we've been here, but the real aftershocks that grip a place like this are the emotional ones. Just put yourself into the shoes of the people of Haiti. First, there's the extraordinary shock of the earthquake. 1 minute when the earth shakes and everything around them either collapses into a pile of dust or looks so bad and cracked that they know they can't go back there and live there in the future. Then there's a search for the bodies. Then they wake up the following morning and kind of wonder what's happened to their world. Everything has changed. They have no jobs, they have no food, they have no money, they have no water, they have no medical supplies. Then the next phase is watching those who are not already dead dying slowly. A mother watching her child, the life ebb out of her child in a hospital, knowing full well that the most menial medical attention would make all the difference. I've seen quite a few of these scenes, and I have to say, having covered a few of these crises as well, this has been one of the most heart-rending, mainly because the people of Haiti have been left so much to their own very meagre resources indeed. And yes, there's been an enormous amount of international aid and goodwill, and millions of dollars have poured in, and that will make a huge difference to this country. But what happens in a month, or in a year, or in 5 years, Will this be the opportunity to remake Haiti, or will it be another lost opportunity?